I think that there's such a great opportunity now to leverage AI. We've grown that company to 80 million and we had a 7x exit on rev. Very successful, one of Bergal SageMount's most successful exits of a technology platform.
Hello and welcome back to the Raw Selection Private Equity Podcast. On the podcast today is Kevin McShane, an experienced Chief Revenue Officer with multiple private equity-backed exits and now transitioned into the operating partner role. Kevin shares with us his learnings from multiple exits, selling to private equity, the current state of the technology industry, his transition to operating partner from Chief Revenue Officer. But first, he's going to dive into his use of artificial intelligence and how it's actually practically driving revenue, driving EBITDA. Let's dive in. Thank you very much for joining us today, Kevin. Kevin, if you could give us a brief insight into you, please.
Absolutely, Alex. It's my pleasure to be here with you and your audience. So my name's Kevin McShane. I'm a 25-year career in the tech sector and a good range, good combination of small cap, mid cap, large cap. On the small cap side, worked with inside teams and organizations that are, 10 million ARR all the way up to about 50 million ARR. Mid cap, anywhere from that 50 million ARR all the way up to about 200 million. And then worked in some organizations that are large cap, 200 to all the way up to about 500 million. So good combination of small, mid cap, and large cap, exclusively in kind of the tech enterprise software and SaaS and cloud, and a 3-time Chief Revenue Officer. So I've led a portfolio company for Bergal SageMount. I've led a portfolio company for Riverside Companies, $200 million ARR company, and then led a company for Summit Partners, and all three to successful exits and or successful outcomes. So about 4.5 years ago, Alex, I was approached by some investors to become an operating partner. So after a long career in the wearing the CRO hat, I took off the sales chief hat, put on the operating partner hat, and for the last 4.5 years in the operating partner role, responsible for value creation across our assets in the portfolio.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. What is one mistake that you see either private equity firms making or their portfolio companies, and what would you suggest to correct them?
Yeah, exactly. And, kind of the mistake that I saw myself making as an operating partner in private equity. I think that there's such a great opportunity now to leverage AI. So I do think private equity, some private equity, kind of slow to leverage generative AI and machine learning across all of the stages in the deal process, from sourcing all the way into operational value creation. So I'm a member of the AI Applications for Growth at Kellogg School at Northwestern University. And as an operating partner, it's incredible to really become hands-on with the technology, to build out that canvas, that roadmap for our portfolio companies, and really share with them that roadmap, the AI roadmap, how they can start experimenting, what are these use cases, to build predictive models, analytic models, and get them starting to use the technology. So there's so many great use cases, right, that I think our portfolios companies that are starting to use it are starting to see some great results. So from a sales perspective, personalized prospecting, competitive intelligence, quota forecasting, slip deal analytics, cross-sell, upsell prediction. On the demand gen side, ad creation, optimization, campaign management, intelligent leads scoring, website optimization. And then certainly on the customer success side, predicting customer churn, the likelihood of cross-sell, upsell. So as an operating partner, I feel there's such great opportunities to kind of bring this technology to our portfolio companies, kind of nudge them push them down the road a little bit to start experimenting. I was just talking to one of our CEOs this morning, and she had just 6 months ago implemented some AI in her demand gen kind of inbound marketing, and she said that she saved upwards to $500,000 in cost, and her pipeline is 3x, and she attributed it to some of the AI technology that she's embedded in her teams. I think we're just scratching the surface. But again, as an operating partner, I believe it's really kind of my job to kind of, really know the technology, build out that canvas or the roadmap for our portfolios, introduce these where the use cases are most applicable, introduce the technology, help them actually build some of the predictive models, some of the like analytic churn models, predictive scoring, really help them embrace it and really take ownership of it thereafter.
Appreciate that. So I'm just going to dive into the AI a little bit actually before we move on. Just to talk to us a little bit about the project you worked on there, where was on the demand generation side, I think you said, of what was implemented. Was that an in-house inbuilt AI product? Was that something you looked at externally for sourcing and because AI is a bit of an enigma for a lot of people,
right,
myself included. We're using it to some extent here, but I know it's more powerful. We just don't really know where to look.
Exactly. It's a great follow-up. It's one of the great things about portfolio companies is, and I was as a CRO, as a sales chief, I was in the portfolio company, and we lacked resources. We certainly had a tight budget. So those are all the things we're kind of struggling with. But AI really enhances our decision-making, analyzing vast data sets quickly and providing actionable insight for better target identification. Okay. So this specific use case is a couple of things, right? That they have a content writer, but building great content is slow. It's kind of clunky. It's expensive. So they're using generative AI to build better content. Then they're leveraging AI to really help build out multi-channel outbound marketing campaigns. And then they're using AI in this application for lead scoring for all the inbound. And then they're using AI to set up meetings and score those inbound leads and set up meetings for the salespeople. The CEO said that every single morning, her sales team is waking up and they have their calendar already booked, and she attributed it to the AI technology that she's using across her channels. So I just think as an operating partner, helping our portfolio companies build out their AI roadmap, build out that canvas, pick a couple of use cases that really could make the biggest impact. So I'm a big believer in using predictive analytics to identify across our customer segments who's likely to churn. Build out predictive analytics of which customers are most likely to accept the cross-sell, upsell, and then lead scoring, from a sales standpoint, deal slippage, just building out those predictive analytic models and then using AI across, the sales, demand gen, partner channel, and customer success. And just starting, Alex, to experiment with AI, getting people comfortable with it. One of the, an investor who's been in the space a long time, who I really admire, he said to me at the beginning of the year, he said he felt that if his portfolio companies don't embrace AI, that he really worries about ultimately the valuation and a successful run with those companies because their competitors are. So don't be left behind.
I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm sure that's their information, but what are we looking at from a cost perspective of the implementation of some of these AI projects? And we don't have to talk about that one specifically, but some of the ones you've been involved in, immediately I'm thinking, okay, ChatGPT is fantastic, but I know that that's a language model and therefore, has its benefits, but also is equally as limiting, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind. And as much as we see AI as something that's brand new, it's a bit like the internet. The government's had access to this kind of technology for quite some time before they release it out to us mere mortals. So what are some of the cost bases, or what are some of the costs that you've seen of some of these AI projects?
Yeah, I think, again, I think there's more good news there. One of the things that when I'm talking to our go-to-market leadership team in the portfolio is we already have a lot of our portfolio companies, they have Salesforce for their CRM, or they have HubSpot for CRM or the marketing automation, or they have Gainsight for customer success. So, or they have Gone for the recording side. So, my biggest recommendation to our leadership team is talk to your current vendor, Salesforce, HubSpot, Gainsight, Gone. They're investing in R&D in AI. So just start experimenting with the tech that we already have. Push your current vendors to demo and show some of those use cases. So that's like the first step, right? Qualified is another really good example of kind of an inbound lead scoring SDR alternative. And Qualified is a product, AI product, that you can be up and running and for not a lot of dollars. It's a SaaS environment, but then the return on investment in terms of cost savings and then incremental pipeline, the ROI is just absolutely crazy. So again, I think the cost is low, but the upside is amazing. And that's where I'd really encourage customer success leaders, the sales chief, the demand gen marketing leaders to really start playing around with the technology. Now, the reason why I'm in the cohort, the AI cohort at Kellogg School at Northwestern, is I want to be able to build the models. I want to be able to sit down with a VP of demand gen or marketing and walk them through how to build a predictive model on customer churn or a predictive lead scoring model, using, the technologies that's available. I think as an operating partner, and again, it goes back to my CRO experience, I want to surround myself with people that actually can get hands-on, know the technology, build out the application, build out the model. And then once you kind of build it out a couple of times, and then, then you turn it over to the portfolio, and then they can run it. And then the cost on that is very small, right? It's easy to get into the game and start competing and winning in your market, leveraging AI and big data, machine learning and big data analytics.
Perfect. And take a dive into the tech industry. So this is being recorded on the 6th of August, which for those that are in the know-how with regards to stocks, there's been a big dive in stocks, and some of that of obviously being the tech industry getting hit yet again. What's your take on the technology industry? Why the dip in stock prices of that area, and what the kind of current state of play is?
Yeah, it's certainly the bigger guys that are kind of getting hit over the last couple of days, and it might just be kind of a reaction period. Tech, I'm a big fan of tech. It's going to continue to grow. There's probably a resettling going to be going on. But again, so the companies that we're working with in that, mid cap, kind of large cap, these are companies that are anywhere from, 25 to 75 million, 75 to 200 million in ARR. These are companies that to create advantage, to create differentiation in competitive markets, really encouraging these companies to embrace technology. I think, I'm hearing it from some of our board directors, from some of the board members, is, cost savings, EBITDA, the focus on EBITDA, right? And I think there's a lot of areas for CEOs to kind of leverage new technology, become more streamlined, but it's really about helping our leaders become more using the technology to become more productive, and then take that capital and it could be making better hires or making our people more productive. But the long run in the tech space is I'm optimistic. I'm very excited about it because of the technology and making our teams more competitive, more productive, and ultimately more successful.
I think there's a question that continues to disrupt, and there's been a lot of shift to private equity firms and investment in that, and the move from venture to private equity with regards to tech has definitely continued and will continue. We're just seeing it play out in the public markets currently. I agree with that. Not only am I the host of the Private Equity Podcast, but I'm also the founder and managing partner of Raw Selection. Raw Selection is a private equity specialist executive search firm with two divisions, one that focuses on portfolio, C-suite executive hires, and one that focuses on private equity direct hires via back office and investment deal professionals to the industry. Alongside the podcast, we're passionate about giving back to the industry and giving people information that they can run and utilize. One thing we do regularly every year is we run salary reports on accurate live data of people that we've interviewed and people that have shared their information with us. So if you're looking to compare the current compensation or your compensation for your next hire in your private equity firm or portfolio company, then please check out our YouTube channel and see the playlist of salary surveys. So a big part of what I want to talk to you about, Kevin, is your exits. Now, you mentioned at the start you've got multiple exits to private equity firms across your career. What are the kind of big two learning points that you've had with regards to your exits that you wish you knew before you went into them?
That's a great question. Oh, if we only knew now what could have helped us. I think the first thing when I think back, so I was the sales chief at Moby Wireless Management. When I joined, it was about 40 million in ARR. When we ultimately sold that business to Marlin Equity, to one of their portfolio companies by the name of Tango, we'd grown that company to 80 million, and we had a 7x exit on rev. Very successful, one of Bergal SageMount's most successful exits of a technology platform. I would say the most important kind of learning that helped our team at Moby as we started to accelerate and scale, and then helped us during the deal process, due diligence, and then closing the deal ultimately with Marlin Equity, is relationships. As a sales chief, I can't help my team if I don't have a great relationship with the chief financial officer. I think that's a big miss with a lot of CROs and sales chiefs, is they have some friction maybe with their counterpart running the finance group. I can't help my team if I'm not hand in glove with the CFO or the CTO, or certainly the chief executive officer, the CEO. My job is to have great relationships up and down the chain of command, so to speak. Because again, if I have some friction with the CFO and we're kind of going back and forth, we're kind of butting heads on budget or cost, those sorts of things, that's not going to help my team. And so having great relationships, across my peers that are in the executive team, as well as really knowing every single person, knowing how they're motivated on the inside sales team, the BDR team, the SDR, AEs, the partner channel, the demand gen, and really having great relationships across the organization, I think is super important. Really understanding people, understanding where they're at. They might need more training, more support, more tools for them to be successful. But I think that relationship piece, when I look back on the success we had selling Moby Wireless Management, and then later a Riverside company, and later a Summit Partners company, is great relationships are super important to build and scale. And then ultimately, especially through the due diligence, when you're working with different investors trying to close a deal. I think the second part that I've learned in my own career, in my own journey, is um, the best and the top performers, and we see this across the portfolio time and time again with our CEOs, with the CROs, CFOs. The top performers are the ones that are low ego. They are the ones that are highly, highly coached. They can check their ego at the door. They don't point fingers. A lot of time I can see when they walk into the board meeting, maybe they missed their target or missed the forecast or something went wrong. And they're the first to say, this is on me. There's no pointing of the finger. This is on me. I take full responsibility for what happened. And then here's my plan so we're better next time and it doesn't happen again. I think the ability to check the ego at the door, really put the team, put the mission first and foremost is really I think the top characteristic and the top attribute of top performers.
When you started with the relationship piece, now that's, comes down to communication and working with people, etc., which is obviously absolutely essential. But it's interesting you mentioned that as a key learning point. What have you done? You mentioned the relationship with the CFO, which Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Financial Officer, both pulling in different directions, but also in the same direction. What do you do to build that relationship with the CFO, and how did you overcome some of those, misconceived conceptions?
Exactly. So I'm not military. However, I spent a whole week in leadership training with former U.S. Navy SEALs, Alex, and it was an incredible learning experience just to spend a whole week with, because when I think about culture and I think about team performance, special operations, Navy SEALs are, to me, right at the very top. And one of the things that, big takeaways for me was one of the instructors who had an incredible career in the service. He talked about the importance of relationships. So, he gave an example. If it's the first time that I really need something, if you're my counterpart and you're running finance, and sure, we've met a bunch of times, but if I don't have a great relationship with you, and this is kind of the first time that I need something and I don't have a great relationship, chances are I'm not going to get to great outcomes. So great leaders really spend the time to build that relationship across the organization, up and down, because when that time comes, you have that common bond of trust, right? And so that's a really good example where, I would spend time with, his name is Andy. I was the CFO at Moby. I would spend time I did not major in finance, but I would spend time with Andy really trying to understand his perspective on the financials. What's his perspective on EBITDA? What is his perspective on growth? Where are his pressure points going into the next board meeting? What targets does he want to hit by the end of the year? And really understanding where he's coming from. Then as we build that trust, I'm able to kind of share with him some of the concerns, issues that I have. And once we, really, it's that old saying, right? Seek first to understand and then later on be understood. It's exactly that principle, because we had built that relationship on trust. Then we were able to work together and collaborate. And if I needed something, he'd be like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. All right, what about this? And then we start iterating. Then we start kind of building on ideas to come up with a great. And then Andy and I would just go walk down the end of the hall to the CEO's office and say, hey, boss, want to run this by you. Kevin and I, Andy and I were working on something. Here's the initiative, or here's the project, or here's the investment. And when the CEO sees the sales chief and his chief financial officer totally in lockstep, shoulder to shoulder, that's why we were getting things done faster, right? But it gets back to that relationship. In my career, if I stumbled in my career as a sales chief, it was, if I could tie it back, I'd tie it back. Probably didn't have a great relationship maybe with, somebody, a colleague who was a peer, maybe it was finance, maybe it was operations, what have you. Relationships are so important, and we need, as leaders, to invest the time in building those strong relationships, because at the end of the day, our team is counting on us as the leader to have great relationships, to be productive, so we can get things done.
You've made the transition from Chief Revenue Officer to operating partner. You referenced that numerous times in this conversation. What advice would you give to others on that transition from CXO to operating partner?
Well, one of the things that I think is to my advantage, being in the operating partner role the last 4+ years, as a sales chief, as a CRO, I was working with other operating partners, Alex. I was working with operating partners from Bergal Sagemount, Riverside Company, and Summit. I know the Marlin Equity play. I know the Vista Equity play. So I got a chance inside the portfolio to work with operating partners, and I got to see what I liked and what I didn't like. And, as a CRO, I always said to myself, if I ever do become an operating partner, maybe I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I felt as the CRO, the operating partner could play a huge benefit to my team, a huge role. But I saw some of the operating partners, the ones who are willing to roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty, really be my partner in the trenches or the foxholes, so to speak. Those are the ones that were most effective. And so as I took off my CRO hat, put on the operating partner hat, that's the one thing, I think what I kind of bring to the table is that experience of really understanding the executive leadership team in the portco, understanding some of the issues, challenges that they have, and really being a partner that they can rely on and count on, get my hands dirty, roll up my sleeves. And it could be sales training, which we're doing in 2 weeks to a big group, hands-on sales training, negotiating training, leadership training, and really not outsourcing some of the things that are core competency. I think my biggest advice for somebody who wants to kind of come into the operating partner role, kind of maybe in their a little bit earlier in their career, is go be in, get into a team, right? Gain that operating experience, become a VP marketing, become a VP, run a sales team, run a customer, be a sales chief. Because I think having that experience of gaining some wins, taking some losses, but the lessons that come from, actually running a team or running an organization, I do think later on helps you enormously as you step into the operating partner role.
Not only am I the host of the Private Equity Podcast, but I'm also the founder and managing partner of Raw Selection. Raw Selection is a private equity specialist executive search firm with 2 divisions, one that focuses on portfolio, C-suite executive hires, and one that focuses on private equity direct hires via back office and investment deal professionals, operating across Europe and North America. A unique offering of our service is that we offer a full money-back guarantee on all upfront deposits. We typically take around $10,000 as an upfront deposit to commence a search process. The remainder is then on completion, but that upfront deposit is completely refundable. If you're not happy with our service, we'll refund that upfront deposit, no questions asked. How did you find the transition from being player to coach?
Yeah, so right, that's the $1 million question, Alex. Right, so. The operating partners, it's the influence without the authority. So as a CRO, it's for sure you can be more prescriptive, right? But as an operating partner, it's different. It's it's true. It's really influence without the authority. So my job, and I've seen there's some other operating partners in the market that are fantastic, and I've learned from them. but really investing the time to learn the business, to really spend time with the CEO, her leadership team, the CRO, understand what's working well, what's maybe not working well. And a lot of times it may be where they're not able to articulate or identify an area that they need help with. And so that's where let's go on that journey together, looking at some of the data, looking at some of the metrics. It could be team quota attainment. It could be net or gross revenue retention. It could be deal size, deal velocity, win rates, whatever. Let's pick a couple of metrics that maybe are underperforming. And then I don't believe in top down because I didn't like top down when I was a CRO. So it's kind of bottom up. So if you were the sales chief and we've identified maybe long sales cycle is problematic or smaller deal size, whatever the underperforming metric is, and now we start to collaborate. I'm not going to walk in with the template and say, here you go, Alex. But I want to start collaborating, sharing some ideas when I was the sales chief or an operator, how we handled this type of situation, probably what we were doing wrong, some of the things that we tried that didn't work, right? And now we start kind of collaborating, and then you bring some ideas that maybe worked in one of your former teams. And now we're collaborating, we're iterating, and now we're starting to co-create. Because ultimately, and again, I learned this really well from the Navy SEAL training that I attended a couple of years ago. Because ultimately, if it's my idea, you're not going to take ownership of it. But if you own the idea, then you're going to own the results. You're going to hold yourself accountable. And I think that's probably one of the big applications I've learned, especially with this, Special Force Navy SEAL training, is top down never works. Let's work collaboratively, but I want you to come up with the game plan or the idea or the play, if you will. I am there to kind of help guide and mentor to make sure we're on track. But ultimately, you have to own it. You have to own the implementation, the operation of it, and ultimately the results. And I think that approach is typically way better than top down, because when you walk into the board meeting as the CRO or the CEO, I want you to say, hey, we've identified these underperforming metrics. Here's what we've done the last quarter or two to attack that metric, and here are the results. And I'm happy today now I'm in probably the back row, and I'm cheering you on because you as the leader, you took it head on, you developed a great plan, you've executed, and now you get to share that success in the board meeting.
Reference a lot of learning from other operating partners and people that you've worked with. So feel free to drop any names if there is anybody you think anybody should follow here. But what are your influences? What do you read? What do you watch? What do you listen to? Or who have you learned from you'd recommend that others listening check out?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, there's, I'm a big fan of the PEI, the Operating Partner Forum there. I was just out in Napa, and there's 200 operating partners out there, and it's incredible. There are certainly different models within private equity on value creation. Some of the larger caps, it's more productized. Some of the mid-cap investment firms have bigger value creation teams. And then kind of on the smaller cap investors, there may only be a handful of operating partners, and they typically have more operating experience. They've, the wins, losses, and lessons. They brought a company to a successful exit, and they're able to leverage that experience. Dan Perry is, one of my mentors. Dan has been a former CRO operating partner, and I think he is terrific. And I know AJ at Maryland Equity is certainly probably one of the smartest guys, that there is, in this space. So there's an incredible amount of, and I'm learning from these other operating partners. And I think, we have a good community. PEI is a great community. The Pavilion is a nice community as well, kind of operating partners. So let me share with you a couple of recommendations. When I start working with a leadership team, to me, culture is super important. One, and I've kind of already referenced the Navy SEAL, but Extreme Ownership. It's a book that came out, How the U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. When it came out in 2015, 16, 17, it had a huge impact on me and my leadership style. It's this idea of taking extreme ownership, no matter the situation. And it builds confidence, it builds trust up and down the chain of command. And we have way better culture inside the teams when we have that. I'm a big fan of John McMahon. John's had an extraordinary career as a CRO. He's doing some great stuff as at Force Management, but the Qualified Sales Leader, I think, is a great roadmap for an operating partner that is working with multiple teams, multiple portfolio companies. It's a really good framework to start working with multiple teams. This came out, Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg, came out a couple of years ago. I think that is a great book. And then back to the operating partner, Leading Without Authority, Keith Ferrazzi, which really kind of, I think, nails this whole notion of leading without the authority, building relationships, and the power of influence across teams. So those are just some recommendations that I like to hand out and to provide to some of our leadership across our portfolio.
Perfect. 3 brand new books for me, so I'm absolutely delighted.
Which one have you read?
No, I haven't. They're all brand new. I've never read any of them. So I'm saying 3 brand new ones for me. So I've made a note of them as you've been talking and typed them up on the on a Word document. So I'm going to get them straight into Amazon as soon as you're finished. Jocko Willink, I'm a big fan of, but I have not come across that book. So that'll be absolutely great. So I'll get them 3 ordered. So. Well, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast. If anybody wishes to reach out to you, Kevin, how best do they get in touch, please?
Sure. My email is kevinjmcshane, all one string, @gmail.com. I'm up on LinkedIn, of course. But I've in my own career, I've been blessed by mentors, coaches, educators that, frankly, helped me get back on track. And I'm grateful for all the mentoring and the leadership, and then grateful for all of what I've learned from the people on my team. And so, I love to kind of get back. I love to network. I like to learn from other people. I think it's so important in this continuous learning journey that we're on. And I'd love to network. So if anybody does reach out, happy to have a chat. We can start to kind of learn from each other.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast, Kevin. You leave from artificial intelligence, transition to operating partner, multiple exit experiences. Thank you very much for everything we've covered today.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I just want to compliment you and your team. What y'all are doing is incredible. It's making an impact. It's helping build communities. So I'm very grateful for you and your team. So well done, and looking forward to working with you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. So for all our listeners, if you've not already done so, please do subscribe to the podcast. And if you do have a moment, please do leave us a review. If it's not 5 stars, give us feedback on how we can improve, and we will absolutely action that. But till the next time, keep smashing it, and thank you very much for listening.